Hey there, enjoyers. Hope you're doing really well. Well, here we are. We are tuning in today for our Uncommon Leadership podcast with none other than the man himself, Pastor Evan Carmichael. So good to see you, bro. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Winter in Australia. Very different to winter on the big island of Hawaii.
Oh, absolutely. Winter. People say, what's winter in Hawaii? It's basically like our summer.
2 degrees difference.
2 degrees difference.
I laugh because like in the middle of summer, you've got 28 degrees. In the middle of winter, you've got 26 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are suffering for Jesus. There's no doubt about that. And so I want to say thank you for being in today. Obviously, you got in late last night. Yeah, your plane got delayed in Sydney because there was a couple of drunk women on the plane in Hawaii.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're probably Australians coming home, were they?
They were Australians, yeah.
All right. No drunk Australians coming out of Hawaii. No drunk Australians in Hawaii, whatever. So we're not going to do that. But I want to say thank you for coming. We're here for men's conference. We've obviously got Rex with us this weekend. We're looking forward to hearing from him,
Yes.
hearing from yourself. And I think you're going to be speaking in one of our locations and they are going to be blessed. So welcome and thank you for coming. And so to all of you that are tuning in, obviously you would be well aware that this is a disciple / leadership podcast that's going to help all of our young and upcoming leaders and those that are established in leadership all around the life of Enjoy Church. So today we're just going to have a whole lot of fun. So we've known each other for a little while now, probably 12 or 13 years.
Yeah.
We're talking about it. So 2013, I think, is when we met.
2013.
And from then we've had unbelievable opportunities to gather together. And you've had the incredible opportunity to lay down your life on the golf course for me. And I want to say thank you for that. And what a great time it's been. Obviously, we met through a common friend, Mike Kai.
Yeah.
And met Mike in Hawaii. And then a year later, I think I met you. He brought you back to, New Zealand.
New Zealand,
And
yeah.
Paul de Jong's conference, and he brought yourself. And we met in a coffee shop, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
Here we are. Certainly great to have you and your family with us.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's always good to be with you guys and the Enjoy family.
Yeah, it is the Enjoy family. For you, it is that, because I know that Enjoy sees you as family. So here we are. So we're going to be talking all things leadership as we go through today, and we're just going to pull the thread and see where it unfolds. It's one of the great joys of having relationships like this. We're not just doing leadership; we're doing life together. We're doing friendship together. Our families love each other. Somewhere in my notes here, I talk about the fact that both my daughters would see you as probably their number one favorite pastor friend in our world, and they just love you and your family to bits. But you hold a very special place in their hearts and the hearts of those that are here in our leadership team and in our congregation. And so, and that says a whole lot about you. So we're going to jump in. So we're going to talk about before we go too far, we're just going to talk about where you live. We want to talk about your family and what you love doing when you're not at work.
So we're in Hilo, Hawaii, which if you don't know, if you know the Big Island, there's the resort side and then there's the normal side. We're on the normal side.
Normal.
Yeah, it's not. It's the blue collar, just good people, hard workers. And one of the rainiest cities in the United States. Also, that's where we are.
It's
so
wet.
It's very wet.
Always wet.
Very, very green too, but it's wet. So we're from there, pastor a church called Arise Church. 3 kids, 2 grandkids now, and it's good. You know, Hilo's beautiful. It is a beautiful place. Although, as you travel the world, you always hear, "Wow, you're so lucky. You live in Hawaii. You live in paradise." And my answer quite often is, "Well, it's not paradise when you live there, but." You got your own battles to face, but there's worse places to be. We do live in a beautiful place. And for fun, you talk about fun. I think it's changed over the last couple of months. But with grandkids and all of that, fun is different. But I think personally, as you know, it's golf. Yeah. That's a fun thing to do. Recently, pickleball. I've really been enjoying pickleball. Trying to do that a little more, getting that in. You can get it done in an hour versus 4 hours of golfing. But pickleball's been great, and then just doing other things, whether it's getting to the gym or movies with the family. We always enjoy that. Oh, and another thing I've been doing a lot of is actually reading. So just reading books, reading storybooks, just fiction.
Is that right? Fiction?
Yeah, a lot of reading.
Is that right?
I've been trying to do more reading than and just not watching television or binging on those things. So just reading. I just love reading.
Good job. Yeah. Good job. Now, many enjoyers would know that when it comes to handsome men, I think your father is the best looking man that's ever walked the planet. And some of you are like, what has that got to do with anything? All I'm saying is he's a good looking man.
He is a good looking man.
He's a good looking man. I remember when I met your dad, it's like I got to tell you, I love your parents. They are just delightful individuals. But I remember first time I met your dad, I'm like, who is this Hawaiian god man? And as you walked out of the trees, it was a bizarre encounter. And I met your dad, I met your mum. Beautiful, beautiful people. We're talking all things leadership. We're talking discipleship. What was it like growing up in a pastor's house for yourself? Because it seems to be that most PKs have got somewhat similar but somewhat different stories. So what was it like for yourself?
Yeah, for us growing up, my dad, he didn't come from a necessarily ministry Christian kind of family. He was the first one saved, moved over to the Big Island in 1983, helped his friend who had a church, and then he felt the calling to start a church. And, now there's all these great sending organizations that will fund you. Back then, you were on your own. Basically, the pastor was that he was at. It was like, okay, you're going to go ahead and do it. I still remember the pastor got up and said, hey, Lauren's going to start a church, and no one from here better go with him. That was
no one from here.
No one from here.
Not like who wants to go with him?
No. Nobody better go.
Wow.
So when my dad started the church, it was just him, him and my mom. And it was tough in the beginning. He had to be bivocational and working and trying to do the church. And for a number of years, it was that challenge. And so for us as kids, it was tough, especially financially, not being able to do other things like our friends could do. Yeah. And it was really a grind. My dad was doing construction, and, at times he'd be running the Buster all day and then coming home and then doing church. Wednesday night services, right? And Sunday. And
so they're grinding it out. As a family, you're grinding it out.
It was tough. Yeah. And that's what led me to think I would never want to be a pastor. I wouldn't want to be a pastor. That's not what I wanted to do.
How'd that go for you?
Yeah, that's probably a whole nother story. So it was tough in the beginning, but I think on the flip side, my parents were great. Yeah. They loved God, they loved us, and they really did try to do the best for us in that time. And so we had great parents.
That's awesome, mate.
But it was a grind for sure.
Yeah. What intrigues me, and this has got nothing to do with anything, but when we think of the Big Island of Hawaii, as typical Australians, we're thinking Hawaii 5-0, surfers, that whole deal is like, shaka, let's go surfing. But the reality is it's cowboy world. Like we're here, obviously we're at the Covenant Keepers main event coming up tomorrow.
Yep.
And it's a real cowboy theme. But cowboys, some of the greatest cowboys in America have actually come off the Big Island of Hawaii.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Paneolos is what they were called.
Is that right?
From the Waimea area. In fact, Parker Ranch, I don't think it's this way now, but for many years, the largest privately owned ranch in all of America was on our island, on the Big Island. And you think of Hawaii 5-0, all of that is on Oahu. So we're the Big Island, the biggest island. You can fit all of the islands on our island, and there's still room left over. Yeah. We got the big mountains, the volcano, but you think of Oahu, relatively small, about 1.3 million people. Our huge island, we have maybe 180,000 all spread out.
Is that in total?
That's it. So
wow.
We're the big city, 45,000 people.
Wow.
And so it is rural. When my dad moved over from Oahu, I remember them saying the help wanted ad was about this big. That's it. So he moved over digging ditches for $6 an hour with a family. And then, starting the church in 1987, again, it was rough. And then where they started the church wasn't even in Hilo. It was in where you've been in Puna, which is probably that district in the entire state. I think it's one of the lowest socioeconomic places.
Yeah.
And especially at that time, it was so very, very tough. It was a tough grind. And my dad, definitely in leading the church, it had to have been God, because I think anyone else probably would have quit.
Yeah, would have caved in.
But he was faithful.
Yeah.
Bought that first property.
Yeah.
Took years to build the first church, the little building there, and he just never really. You know how I guess now with social media, people blow up. I think of what my mom and dad did. It was never a blow up. It was just a constant, they were just faithful and steady to where they are today.
I think, and I'll get myself in trouble in saying this, so forgive me straight off the bat, but I think the blow up reality around social media and that whole promotional reality, well, praise God if you can have that, whatever. But that slow grind or that line upon line, precept upon precept, building the house of God, one family at a time. I think in heaven really does celebrate it, because it's ministry. That's real ministry, isn't it? It's not like a Facebook advertisement, and now we've got 4,000 people that is going out to where no one wants to go. I remember speaking the first time I spoke for your parents, and in the old building, and there was a lot of teen challenge people there. And as you've already said, it's a very low socioeconomic area. Yeah. There was a lot of teen challenge people in the room that night, and we had the greatest time. And then we went back another time after that, and we went to the new building, and there was still a lot of teen challenge people in the building, and we had the greatest time. And it's but it was just wonderful to see what God was doing, what they were doing, and the faithfulness. I reckon when we get to heaven, I got a feeling when the Lord sets a table in heaven, we might be surprised at who's closer to him and who's further from him, because I don't necessarily know that it's going to add up to follows or likes or anything like that. I think it's going to be what's done in secret, what's done in private. I think the Lord's going to honor that and reward that in the fullness of time. So you saw the grind and you made up your mind, I'm not doing this. I'm not ever going to be a pastor.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably a lot of PKs that say the same thing who end up in ministry. But were you actually involved in ministry as the church was growing with your parents? How did that look?
Yeah, I was always involved, and I was in the thought of I don't want to pastor. I'm not going to pastor, but I love church. I'll serve. I'll work for a pastor. There's no way I want to pastor. So I've been involved. It was in the 5th grade. I was in the 5th grade when my dad started. At that time, I was the only one who could basically play the guitar. I had taught myself. I wasn't great, but I could play. And so, I call it indentured servanthood. And I think every PK knows exactly what I'm talking about. You had no choice. So I was forced to play, and I played, but I was involved from the 5th grade. And I was playing, serving, taught myself to play different instruments. And eventually I got to the point where I was the worship pastor at the church. And I was doing that. Definitely not as glamorous as probably some worship pastors are now. And I tell people all the time, yeah, I could have been leading worship on Sunday, but I also was probably cleaning toilets on Monday morning. Yeah. That was it. And you just did what had to be done. So I was involved. I was doing whatever needed to be done for the church. Again, totally content. And in my mind, I was going to go to university, probably become a teacher, English teacher. Math is not my thing, but English. I'm like, all right, I'll become an English teacher. And that's what I was set on doing in my life. And then serve. I was like, I can do this career, and I'll still serve in the church, and just be involved.
Okay, so that's through your teenage years. Mm-hmm. Then okay, so what happened? When were you arrested? When did the call come? And you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Being a kid, always, you'd always have guest speakers come.
Yep.
And most times I'd get pointed out and get a prophetic word by people that I was going to do this or that. And I'm not the social butterfly. I married one, but I'm not one. But you have that quiet stubbornness. And I used to sit there when they'd give it, and I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. I'd always think that even as a kid. But what happened was, fast forward, getting married, we had started a location in Hilo, and my dad and I would go back and forth on every other weekend. but my dad just didn't want to do it anymore.
Okay.
And so there was one moment when he called me into his office, and he said, "Hey, I don't want to do both. And I want to turn over one of the locations to you. I want you to pray about it." And so that was kind of where the rubber met the road, where I had to decide what I was going to do.
How old were you then?
At that time, let's see. So I was 2007. So
18 years ago.
Yeah, I think I was around 30, maybe 33.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're well and truly married by now. And
I had kids.
Okay.
We had actually bought a property in Hilo, and we were building our first house in Hilo.
Okay.
So we were moving that way. And actually, my dad wanted me to take over the church that you've been to at first, the one with all the buildings and the properties.
Yeah, yeah.
And the one in Hilo was just, we had a temporary. We didn't even own anything.
Okay.
And I remember thinking at that time, well, I don't know if I want to take over, even though I would have been set at the other one.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks later, he called me in one day and he just goes, "Hey, I changed my mind. I'm going to stay here. And I want you to do the one in Hilo." And I just, even though that was the harder one, it just fit.
Yeah, yeah.
I think because we were moving there, I had been there from the beginning, where I felt at the other one, people still viewed me as Evan, the little bratty kid, that grew up in there. And so we took over officially in 2008 and been pastoring ever since.
Okay. So what would you think were some of the key life/ministry lessons, leadership lessons that you learned under your father that really set you up as you stepped into now leading your own church?
Yeah, I think one of them is just no ego.
No ego.
Yeah, my dad never had an ego. I think the other thing was,
which is amazing when you consider he's such a good-looking man.
It is, yeah. Especially when both women and men admire him that way.
It's true.
But no ego. I think the other thing was just loving people. He was definitely compassionate.
He is.
And kind.
Yeah.
And then always having integrity.
Yeah, yeah.
He had integrity, whether it was financially, whether it was having to go out and work. Later on, even as the church was growing, he went out and got his contractor's license for fencing. And so to supplement he became a fencing contractor. And when I first got married, we'd do fencing during the day.
Wow.
And then, church at night and stuff around it. And, he just did what needed to be done to get whatever needed to be done. So.
Yeah. The interesting part from my point of view is I hear you talk about the lessons that you were able to take away. When you talk about what your father valued, that's you. Mm-hmm. Like if you were to talk about if someone was to ask me about you, I would have said exactly the same things. And so it's a beautiful thing to be able to, from your father's point of view, pass on to a son. But you've obviously made it your own, and you're living it your way now, which is awesome. Okay, so as we move forward. What do you love about the global church? Not just your own church, but the global church. What do you love about it?
Yeah. When I look at the church as a whole in the world right now, I love when I look at it, there's a passion.
Yeah, there is.
God is definitely, in these last couple of years, I do feel we're coming, whether you want to call it a revival or an awakening.
Yeah.
Especially in America, I see that. Different places we visited, whether it's our fellowship or others, in the global movement, I look at it where young people. I see a move in young people that probably didn't see 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So God's doing something there. I don't know exactly what it comes to, but I love seeing the passion in the young people, in the college age students. We've had a couple of things in America, at the Asbury Revival and some of these other things, but it's been young people.
Yeah.
And, from my limited scope, what I see on social media, but you look in even other countries, it just seems like God is moving through the young people, bringing something, an awakening. I'm praying a revival comes in the church, the young and the old, but let it start in the young. And so I think that's the one hopeful thing right now.
Yeah, I must admit, as I look at the wider church, I agree with you totally. What's happening amongst the young people is incredible. It's beautiful. I've got my own thoughts on as to what's happening, but I don't know whether they're right or not. But I think over the last 10 or 15 years, and, it's like it's almost like this generation has been sold a lie. Mm-hmm. And it's like they've been told they can identify as this or they can identify as that. They can have this, they can have that. They can be this, they can be that. But we all know at the end of the day, it's a lie. As in, you can't. As in, it is what it is, and you got to work out, you got to find your identity in God. And I think that the lie has been sold, and you got this generation of younger people that are just like, we were sold a lie, and we were promised this and it fell through, or told this and it doesn't work. And it's like, so there's this hunger that's desiring the more, which can only be found in a relationship with God. And I think people are leaning back into spirituality, we'll call that. And I have no doubt that what God is doing amongst the young people, the enemies at work playing out there on the fringes as well. But I just love the fact that you're seeing all these young people flocking to God, coming to God. And hunger. There's more Bibles being sold to Gen Zs now than any other demographic in the world. And it's because they're hungry. And so I'm super thrilled and excited about that. There's so much to celebrate in the wider church. And, some of it I'm absolutely in for. Some of it I don't exactly get. But, it's a bit like, what did Jesus say to his disciples? Well, it's like, or was it John? I can't get my passages mixed up, but it's like, if they're not against this, just let them go. You know what I mean? And it's like, there's some things in the kingdom I don't understand exactly, but I'll let God and them work that out. But the things that I see are happening, I got to tell you, I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled. What are other things that concern you at the moment within the church?
In the church, concern, I don't know if this would be concern or maybe it's just a sadness. I do think over the last couple of years, the amount of, I guess, people that we would look up to that aren't there anymore. That breaks my heart. And I think about it often. And not in a judgmental or negative way. It just really makes me sad to see these ministries built by people. And then these things come out, and every time you hear about the next person, the thing to myself is not to judge them, and I just keep telling myself nobody's immune. And I get concerned, like we just said, this social media world where people can just explode or ministries can explode. And thank God that churches grow. We want that, but you could grow too fast. You get in trouble. I heard somebody say a long time ago, slow growth is always good growth. So that would be my concern. It's just making sure that we're healthy as leaders. Everyone, whether you're a pastor or you're a tender or you serve, we have to make sure we're healthy. Then somebody else is going to mess up, right? Because that's life. And let's just remember, we're not immune. Those are the times to give ourselves the checkups. And if you might run so hard or you try to grow something so hard that we forget about the basics. And so I would hope that as the church, we come back to remembering what's the mission, what's important. It's not to have the biggest church. It's not to have the biggest social media following, really it's to be holy. And we have to remember that. I have to remember that for my life, holiness.
Okay, so you're a good man. You got a good wife, good family, good church. What are the guardrails that you have erected in your life to prevent you from going over the cliff? Because we talk about our friends, and some of them are our friends, and we've had them in our life for many years, and like you said, they're not where they were. And so what guardrails have you put up, and you're like, I'm not going over the cliff? Because you don't need a guardrail until you are going over the cliff. So what have you put there? How do you do your life?
So I don't want to discount, of course, the Word of God, prayer. I think we all know that, right? as pastors, we're always in church, in fellowship. So I want to lay that foundation. It's important. It's important for all of us. But then now when I look at my life, if I were to say the number one thing after that are my friends.
Yeah.
Right? What's that? They say you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? Yeah. Which I always tell people, you want to elevate your life, elevate your friends. If that's your average, get better people. The guardrails for me are the men. I want to specify the men in my life, people like you, of course, like we mentioned, Mike High, and but people that, and I've had to learn. I need to talk about things.
Yeah.
I need to let them know. I think, what was it, Chris Hodges, who said, when you're the only one who knows your secrets, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And if I'm not communicating the moments when I feel sad, there's been times I've had to call up certain people and say, you need to talk me off the edge right now because I'm about to lose it. As men, when we internalize things and we just think, well, I'll be okay. And that's probably how I used to be. Because again, I internalize. I had to learn to talk about it more. I had to learn that it's okay to call somebody up and tell them my problems. And the pressure that's released in that, and then to have somebody pray for you, and then just knowing that somebody else knows has really kept me accountable and helps me to move on from those things. And when I just keep it in, just yesterday at the airport, there's something that was bothering me for the last 4 days, and it was eating me up. And I lay in bed thinking about it. I had to call somebody real quick, and I had to tell them, and I feel better now because I did it. And so, if we don't have those relationships in our life, I think ministry can be extremely lonely. And I look at my dad's generation, right? He pastored in the 80s and the 90s. And this is what my dad would tell me. He goes, I don't have the kind of friends that you have now. And I wish I did. But I think it was lonely then. And you were afraid to tell anybody if you had problems because you didn't know who was going to turn you into the denomination. We're Assemblies of God, right? So every time you go to pastors, everybody was good. How you doing? I'm doing well. Praise the Lord. Praise. And it's like nobody had problems, And I used to see that and I'd be like, wow, if we were really doing this good, the whole state would be one for Jesus. But it wasn't, because that's not the reality. Yeah. So I've had to learn. If I were to just pinpoint one thing, it's not going to conferences. It's not the leadership books I'm reading. It's not none of those things. It's the friends that I had in my life that I could be vulnerable and authentic with, and yet they still love me and support me, pray for me, tell me what to do at times, and give me advice, even at times that maybe I don't want to hear. Yeah. And it's really helped keep me on the right track.
Which is great. The one word in all of that was accountability for me. And it's very interesting, the word accountability and accountable, because as well as I do, no one can make you accountable other than yourself.
Absolutely.
It's like I've had people here and some things have happened this years ago. And I remember people saying, you need to make them accountable. And it's like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? It's like, I think I know what they mean, but at the end of the day, only I can make myself accountable.
Absolutely.
And I choose to make myself accountable. And, I'll get people in my life, like Georgie's got numbers, our children have got numbers, our board have got numbers, our vision team have got numbers of people that they can call if they feel like I'm being an idiot and I won't listen to anybody. They just need to make the call, because there's people that I am accountable to, but I'm accountable to all of them, which is why they don't need to make the call.
Yeah.
It's like, and I reckon, it's when you're in the middle of the road, that's the time to put the guardrails up. Don't wait until you go over the cliff and then try to put the guardrail up. It's too late.
Yeah.
So you got to know what's important. You got to know what you value. You got to know where your convictions lie, and you just nail these things down. It's like, no, I'm not stepping over those lines, and I'm just not doing life like that. I won't entertain it. But your friends, that group of friends that I think we all need, is so crucial.
Sure.
So crucial, and it's great. So here we are. You're on the big island of Hawaii, and in 2020 along came a little thing called the pandemic, which changed the world as we know it forever. And we were introduced to the raspberry, not raspberry, but the cough called COVID, and the raspy, and it changed the world forever. You're on an island in the middle of the Pacific as the whole world comes to a close, and you're pastoring, and you're in the middle of a building program. And tell us, what was it like? Because I can't imagine what it would have been like to be like, we're on a big island in the Pacific. You're on a smaller island in the Pacific, and it's a very different reality. What was it like for you?
Great question. The
Squeaky chair.
I would say the pandemic, or as some in America would say, the plandemic. We won't get into that. Anyways, that Hawaii is a very liberal state. Yeah. That's one thing. So, you had people in mass, people who thought they were going to die, people who were paranoid. It was challenging. So 2021, we broke ground to start building after all these years.
How many years planning up to 2021? Well, because it seemed like
we talked, from when we took over in 2008, we purchased land. So we had the land this whole time.
Wow.
And we would, talk. And then there was a time when I thought we'd sell the land, we'd go somewhere else, bigger land. And finally we decided we got to build, we got to get this done. We had got financing approved, all of these things. And then the pandemic came, the lockdown came. We decided to just break ground in 2021, the worst time ever to build. And basically 2021 was a complete wash because we couldn't do much anyway. Being on an island, everything needs to be ordered, everything needs to be shipped in. There were times you couldn't even get a phone call back because nobody was in the office. Everything was locked down. So it was a wash. It was incredibly discouraging during that time. Then we had seating. We shut down for 6 weeks. We were online. And then as soon as we could open back up, we opened up, but they had all of these restrictions. So here we are getting started on a multi-million-dollar building project in 2021. And we probably had about 30 people showing up for church on Sunday. So I'd get up to preach and you got 30 people. And I'm thinking things in my head while I'm preaching, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter. I'm preaching about faith. And I'd be thinking like, how in the world are we going to pay this mortgage? How are we going to get these things? Like, people aren't even coming to church. It was incredibly discouraging at that. And then you had, there were people that could have been frustrating too, because, we're not going to come to church. And then you'd go to Costco and they're at Costco. You're like, there's way more people here at Costco. But so we're processing through that, trying to get it built. So, the first year basically couldn't hardly get anything done. The second year it's a little better. Fast forward to where we are now. We're almost done. I think our church has recovered. It took us a little longer to recover. There's some people who've never come back. There's some people who have, but are people that started coming during that time. But it really rocked us. Our small groups haven't recovered to what they were for sure before that. There was just so much fear, the news, fear. And so I really had to preach faith, a lot of faith. A lot of that was probably just preaching to myself. I do have a tendency in my life of when tough times come, my first thought is like, I just want to give up. I want to quit. But I remember what Sam Chan said years ago. It's okay to say you quit as long as you don't quit. So I've told our church, I've quit many times, but I've rehired myself by the afternoon through that season. But it was a challenge, and it still is. We're almost done. Then in 2023, the bigger thing that rocked us was finding out that we were going to be grandparents, and it wasn't according to how we would have pictured it to be. And not just one child, but two children, 2 weeks apart. And, they weren't married. And it was during the whole building thing, I'd always be telling my kids, keep your guard up. The enemy's going to attack us. We got to keep our guard up. During this building time, like this is the most challenging time. And that was something that surprised us. And we had to learn to navigate that and then even the thoughts of that of like, we're almost done. We're past the halfway mark, and now we got this. How are people in the church going to react? Interestingly enough, when that came, I never had the thought of that time of I'm going to quit. It was there's only one way forward, and I have to get through this. I'm going to be positive. I'm not going to say anything negative. Like one of my friends told me during that time, grace always wins, and I just kept telling myself the other thing. Somehow it's going to be okay. It's going to work itself out. So we had the weight of the building, the weight of that. That would definitely be a time. The moment I found out, the phone calls I made, I called that day. It was you, Jürgen Matthesius, Mike Kai, Jared Ming, these people that I called and that I had to talk to. Yeah. And it helped me. If I didn't, I would have said things I regret. But I was able to, we were able to correct the ship, steer the ship. During that time, the church was incredibly supportive. And so we're through that. The grandkids are now 1 year old. I can't imagine life without them. It's beautiful. I love being a grandparent, and although most people think they're my kids, but I can't help it. It must be the Hawaiian sun. But we've navigated that through that season. And so I think with the building and that and the pandemic, it was a lot.
It's a lot. It's interesting because obviously I was asking about the pandemic and you went into that. And I find that interesting all by itself. But you said there's only one way forward. That's what you said. And tell us about, because you're a dad, and I think a lot of times people look at their pastor and they forget that they're a dad. They're actually a person. It's like, believe it or not, your pastor is a person. And it's like, so you're a man and you're a husband and you're a dad and you're going to be a grandfather. How did you navigate that with your family? And how did you love and lead through that?
From the moment I found out, I remember when my daughter told me. So my daughter, she finds out Saturday evening in 2023. We actually had just come back from San Diego. It's when I met Rex on that trip. Yeah. We just came back from San Diego, and she finds out Saturday evening. She tells us Sunday. So this is not like she was sitting on it.
No.
We all find out basically at the same time. I find out at that moment. I didn't have any words to say. I was just in shock. It was probably a better thing other than oh my goodness. And I walked to my room. I remember laying down on my bed and I just numb. I didn't know how to respond. And then after a few moments, it's like I get to my senses and I had to make up my mind in a couple of areas that number one, I was not going to say anything negative about the situation because nothing I would say is going to change the outcome of what's going to happen. So I'm going to only speak life. And so that was my first, I had to come in agreement like with myself. I am not going to let anything negative come out. The second thing was that I can't care about what people think. My priority had to be my daughter.
Yeah.
If everything else fell away, if the church fell apart because of that, my daughter was going to be the priority. Not if I'm pastoring in 2 more years, not what people think about me. If who cares? Who cares? My daughter was going to be the priority. And that is something that I learned actually, because when my parents were pastoring, when I was 19, my sister got pregnant. And so this is in, the 90s. And it's probably a little more hardcore back then as far as processing through it. And I remember at that time at 19, I was probably legalistic and not probably. I was legalistic and religious growing up the way we grew up. or, thinking about things. And I remember when my dad told me about my sister, and I remember the first thing I thought, because I'd invite people to church or people I worked with, they knew I was a Christian. They'd always be, oh, you're the goody two shoes and all that. And I remember the first thing I thought is, what are they going to think about me now? Yeah. And I remember sitting down and putting my head and just thinking that. And my dad put his hand on my shoulder. And I didn't say it out loud. He just put my hand on my shoulder. And I remember what he said. He goes, we are not going to worry about what people think about us. Our job is to protect your sister. Mm-hmm. And that moment instantly righted the ship for me. And I can honestly say it was at that moment where every judgmental bone in my body melted away. And I became incredibly more compassionate. Now, fast forward to where we are, I never thought I'd be going through it. Yeah. But as I got to that place, I realized, I remembered that moment, and I said, okay, my daughter's the priority. Like, who cares? Hilo's a small town. Yeah. People are going to talk about it. People know about us. They see the building coming up. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. This is us. Yeah. You're going to get to see. I told our church when the time came, we didn't tell right away, but when my daughter was ready, it was in February. We found it in October. We told the church in February. People knew here and there, but I just basically said, you're going to get to see how we navigate through this difficult time. You're going to get to watch it in real time. And I was going to protect my daughter at all costs. She was going to be the priority. We were going to love her through this, and my son. But, your daughter's your daughter. You feel a little more, you want to protect her.
And she's a little bit younger than your son too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. For me personally, I just want to say, because Uncommon Leadership, it's a podcast about leadership, and we've talked many things over the last dozen or so podcasts. But what you're talking about here is this is where the rubber hits the road. And, I just want to say thank you, as in that you would share openly, and you have shared openly in different spaces about this. But, it's because so often when we talk about leadership, we're thinking, okay, in the corporate space or in the church space or whatever, but it begins at home. And the love and the leadership that you have shown there is probably why my daughters love you like they do and have for many, many years, because that is true to your nature and true to who you are. So it's, it's like that space, it's real. And so, but thank you for sharing it with us. I want to say thank you. Because, when people are watching in on podcasts like this, they're looking for the 10 answers to grow their small group or to grow their new business or their startup or whatever the case may be. But you can never grow that beyond what you're doing in your home, beyond what you're doing in your own life, doing in your marriage. And so I just want to say thank you. The realities of COVID, obviously you came through COVID. We'll get back to the building in a little bit because we've got celebrations are coming, praise God. But we came through the COVID years, and you've already said that in your small group space, they haven't ever really recovered to what they were. What are some of the realities that you've seen as you've pastored a congregation on both sides of COVID, through COVID? What are the realities coming through?
You mentioned earlier how COVID, it changed the world, right? You look at all the, I feel it breaks my heart, all of these, especially in Hawaii, you hear all these small businesses and restaurants that have closed down. It's all because of that. Yeah.
Same here in Australia.
Yeah, they really took a hit. There's some churches that I never fully recovered. Yeah. Probably when you look at things, some people might be more apprehensive about getting together. There's something that disengaged in, at least for us, as far as people attending church. Yeah. Thank God for online. Sometimes I wish I could just get rid of online. And it's like, you need to come to church if you want to watch church, and not just, I'm watching online. Yeah. But I do think it's given people, and thank God for online. Yeah. Okay, some of you watch online because you can't come. I'm not picking on you. I get it. But I think it's given some people an easy pass now. And I was just telling someone a couple of weeks ago, it's like Sundays aren't Sundays anymore. Ever since then, and people have gotten very relaxed about it, and the attendance, even in the way people serve, that's changed coming out of it. But slowly, I know some people have recovered like nothing. I do feel we're getting stronger. Our attendance has, we're a small town too, but our attendance has been growing. It's been getting there slowly. But here's the other reality, though. I do think is before COVID, I probably always wanted to know what the numbers were, and I'd go to church. I'd be in church preaching. And again, our room's not as big as your room. So before COVID, I could be looking around and I'd be like, oh, so-and-so in here, so-and-so here. How come they're not here? And I'd notice everyone not there. What happened in the pandemic was I didn't care about the numbers anymore. I didn't ask because I could count as I looked out 27. All right. But also what it changed in me was I stopped looking at who was in there and I just appreciated whoever showed up.
Yeah.
Like, wow, they came to church.
Yeah.
And I began to appreciate that. And I still feel that today, although we're back to the hundreds now in church. I still appreciate who comes.
Yeah.
I don't worry about who didn't come.
Yeah.
And honestly, I could care less about what the number is. And I just, I'm just thankful people come to church now.
Yeah.
And so I think that is a good thing.
Yeah.
That it changed in me and it like set me free. From that area.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. I'm intrigued that I'm intrigued with the whole thing. It's like humanity is complicated. Probably been complicated since the fall, but the reality is humanity is complicated. And whatever seeds were in people, come COVID, they just began to grow. Yeah. And it's like we came out of COVID and, we had people with us that were with us for more than 20 years who never came back. And not only do they never come back, they never said goodbye. Can you believe that? They never said goodbye. 20 years. And it's like, how is it possible? I think that, I appreciated the fact that you're like, there's always exceptions. People are sick, so they can't come to church.
Sure.
People might be on a holiday to Israel or to Africa, or we got 100 nationalities. So every weekend we've got people away overseas visiting family, whatever the case may be, and they can tune in. And I love that. But when it comes to if we're at home, as in my encouragement for everybody watching in, whether you're an enjoyer or whether you're from Arise or anywhere else on planet Earth, if you're part of a local church, be in church.
Absolutely.
I'm intrigued how people view being planted in the house of the Lord. And it's like, because for me, even before I was a pastor, being in church wasn't actually optional once I got saved, because that was the time that the body of Christ came together. Where else would I be other than with the body of Christ? And so my encouragement to everyone is always be there. The Lord makes it really clear in Scripture that you can't love God who you can't see if you're not loving the brother who you can see.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, so where am I going to find the brothers and the sisters on a weekend? I know where they're at. They're in the house of the Lord. David said, I was glad when they said to me, let's tune in online. No, that's not what he said. He said, I was glad when they said to me, let us go to the house of the Lord. Why? Because we're going to be there together. There is nothing like human touch, as in you can't get it through the screen. There's nothing like an atmosphere that's full of the power and the presence of God when people are worshiping. And, it's like, but people have made church about themselves, and it was never meant to be about themselves. It's about Christ. It's about His kingdom. It's about the body of Christ. It's about the bride of Christ. As in, I've always said, it's like if you want to get in good with the groom, love the bride.
Yes.
In the right way, in the proper way, in the appropriate way. Tend to her, care for her, minister to her, look after her, and the groom will love you forever. And so I just want to encourage everyone, be there. And so, coming out, it's like fear grabbed humanity like I've never seen fear grab humanity. And it brought division. And we saw that division not just come through COVID, but then all sorts of other spaces in community, and the whole world got rocked. But guess what? We're still here. Jesus is still building His church. And so we're speaking to the choir. That's the reality. As we talk today, we're largely talking to enjoyers and other friends that might be watching in. What does it mean to you to be planted in the house of the Lord? What does that look like as a believer?
To be planted, as I look again, and I guess at the scope of the church, I mentioned, I think you said what concerns me would just be holiness, to be holy, right? A lot of times people want to be happy, but not holy. And God is more concerned with our holiness than our happiness. And to be planted in church So we're going through a series right now called You Asked For It. And we allowed people to write questions down and we answer things that they're doing. I got the idea from another church. Can't answer all the questions, but we got some good ones that come in. Last weekend, there was one. How do we love those in the LGBTQ community?
Yeah.
That was the question. I remember looking at it like, oh, do I really want to answer this? I'm like, yeah, I need to answer this. And this is how I answered it, right? When you look in the Bible, there is no really community that different, there's no special rules for any group of people. There's really two types of people. You're righteous or you're unrighteous. You're saved or you're not saved. Born again, not born again. I mean, that's it. And what I said is I tell that group of people the same thing that I would tell the happily married couple, the alcoholic, the drug addict, the guy having an affair, the guy who's never cheated on his wife, the person, I said, you who's maybe been in this church for the last 10 years, I will tell you all exactly the same thing as any person. Our doors are open for you, but you have to come willing to be changed. Yeah. And I think there's so many people that are going to church, and people, especially today in this world, they're looking for a church that fits their beliefs. They're looking for a church that fits their political beliefs. They're looking for the church that has their lifestyle. And in America, you can find a church probably for whatever lifestyle you want. To be planted in a church, and we forget this, it's not just about going to heaven or being born again. It's the word transformation. Yeah. To be transformed. And if you're going to be planted in the church, and I say this to the choir today, if you're planted in joy, you have to be in church with the heart. God, how do you want to transform me? What do you want to transform in my life? Being planted in a church is continual transformation, whether you're through serving, giving, reading your Bible, the discipleship that comes, transformation. If we stop being transformed in God's image, we miss it. Yeah. We miss it. What's the point of going? You're just part of a club. It's like going to a gym, finding a personal trainer and a gym that says, you are absolutely fine the way you are. Keep coming, but you're fine. You don't have to do anything. Don't worry about you don't need to lose weight. You're absolutely fine, but keep coming. And there's a lot of people looking for a church like that. Yeah. We have to come just saying, God, how do you want to transform me? How do you want to change me? If we're planted in a church, we're submitted to our pastor, then we should be changing. We should be growing. And for everyone that looks different, it's different. Whatever you're facing in life, it's different. We're not on the exact same journey, but transform. I told the church the other day, I need to be transformed every day. Yeah. If I'm planted where God is put, I need to be transformed. I need to be growing. Yeah. And so everyone who comes in, people might say, don't go to a Rise Church or Enjoy Church or any church because they want to brainwash you. And I said, I'm telling you, every single one of you right now, that is absolutely what I want. I want to brainwash every single one of you every single day with the word of God. Yeah. I want to wash the world out. If you're going to be planted here, I want to see you change. Yeah. I want to see you grow. I want to see you be different. Yeah. Then a year from now, if you're planted here, you should be different. Yeah. I think that's the ultimate thing, transformation. Yeah. Let God transform us.
And that's the bottom line, isn't it? As in, it doesn't matter who's coming through the door. I think some people, even within the church, get nervous with that particular community. And the reason is because there are some people within that community that are aggressive, and that's just the way it is, That's just the way it is. Yeah. And so people are like, okay, how do we deal with, how do we love these people? And it's like, loving people, it's really, like, for me, it's like, just love people. It's like I said, you went through and it's like, we're all the same. Outside of Christ, we're outside of Christ. We're just going to love you. We baptized a great bunch of people last week, and there's a girl there, her name is Vanessa. Vanessa did not want to come to church. She had to come to church because she assists a lady who's got a hearing condition. She's deaf, and so she has to assist this sister in life. And so she turns up to church a year ago. Wow. She said on the platform, I came kicking and screaming. I did not want to be here. And she said to me on the platform privately as I walked past and shook her hand, she said, Pastor Shane, you said to me a year ago, I wasn't just here to look after my client, but I was here for another reason. She said, you were right. She goes, it wasn't very long before I realized it's like, I didn't want to be here. I've had nothing to do with church. I've had nothing to do with God, but there was something here that changed my life. And now she's getting water baptized.
Wow.
And the transformation, just love people where they're at, whether they be LGBTQN, whatever it be.
Yeah.
As they just love people.
Yeah.
And then in the end, let God do the work. As in, I don't need to save people. I just need to love people.
Yep.
Anyway, let's move along.
That's so
all
good.
right. So what are we going to talk about? Okay, so as you look across the life of your church, you see these younger people full of potential, older people full of potential, leadership potential. What is it? What do you see when you see leadership potential in people?
In a nutshell,
Yeah.
I would just say it's people who are willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. So I had a conversation with my youngest son the other day, and we talk about this a lot. I don't know if you guys use that program, Planning Center or Services.
Yeah.
But we have that. Yeah. I'm sure you guys have something like you that are watching. It's great, but I also think it's a necessary evil at times because it just makes it so easy for people to cancel.
Okay.
Right?
Opt out.
You don't have to talk to anybody and say, hey, I can't make it. Why? Oh, I just don't want to come. No, you could just, I don't want to serve this weekend. And it's easy. We use it. Don't get me wrong. But I was telling my son, I said, hey, I just want you to know, because, he's serving, but sometimes he's not serving all the time. And I just said, I hate to be like the dad when I was your age, but I said, but when I was your age, there was no, I'm taking off. We served. I told him I served every Sunday, every service. I served. I've volunteered. I was there, and I still worked every Sunday afternoon from 3 to 9, but I got up early. We did worship. We did that. I was there on Wednesday nights, and I get it. Not everyone can do that, but I said, Jaron, if you look at, I threw Jaron under the bus. Anyway, I said, Jaron, if you look at all of my friends, I said, people like Pastor Shane or Pastor Mike, or I said, if you look at these guys and you look at their early part of life, I promise you, they weren't just serving one service a week. No. They were there, and they were giving their life to God, and they were going above and beyond. And again, I'm not talking about burning people out, but I don't think in that, I never felt burnt out. No. And I'm not talking about people being taken advantage of, but it's having a heart that says, I want to do whatever it takes. If it's cleaning the toilets, I'll clean the toilets. If it's singing on the platform, I'll sing if it's serving in kids ministry. And when I see people that have that heart, that's the people that I realize they're going to do a lot. I think about my dad, when he got saved, he'd work, and he was at the church. They had cassette tapes. At night by himself, he'd be making copies of cassette tapes. He would help in the nursery at times. He would play guitar at times. He just did whatever he could do to serve, and it was just out of joy. And then I look at where the doors. He never went to Bible school. Yeah. He just served, and he had the heart that was willing. It wasn't never, oh, that's not my job. Yeah, that's not my calling. Yeah. Oh, that's not for me to do. I mean, if I walk on our where we have church right now, I'll pick up trash. Yeah. I'll do what needs to be done, but I hope everyone can have the heart. Yeah. So when you look for leadership potential, it's just people who, in my opinion, it's people that are willing to do whatever needs to be done. Yeah. And I think I've talked with our church this before. You have it's the call. We have our duty, and we have our call. Yeah. There are things, yes, everyone has a gifting, but don't forget there's also duty. In the military, you could be a cook. Yep. That's your call. But if that base comes under attack, you better believe you're going to pick up a knife or a gun, and you're going to do your duty and protect the base. You're going to do whatever it takes. And so I think in church, when we got people at times, you realize, you know what? I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to do whatever it takes to help this be a success. I look at that and I'm like, that's the first building block of leadership potential. Yeah.
It is very interesting, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people get gifting really mixed up with what it is that they're actually called to be. as in, because gifting is gifting.
Yeah.
Who you be is something completely different. When Paul begins a lot of his letters, he'll say something along the lines of, I, Paul, an apostle, called to be an apostle of Christ Jesus, called to be and a servant of.
Yeah.
So called to be an apostle, but a servant of Christ Jesus. And it's like what he's saying is right. You have gifting, but it's like we're called to be servants. And it's like, where are we starting? And I think a lot of the time, it's like we all want to bring down Goliath, but we don't want to pick up stones.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to do that, but you can't do that unless you go to the stream, stand in the stream and pick up the stones before you go there. And it's like I think anyone that goes a distance will always ride the donkey of the mundane.
Yeah.
As in, when I think about David's looking after his father's sheep. You know what I mean? In comes to the prophet. Is this all your sons? And it's like, no, we've got this other kid out here. And it's like, you think about Saul, what was he? He was out chasing his dad's donkeys when the prophet came across him. And it's like, nobody wants to chase donkeys. No one wants to look after the sheep. As in, we all want to be that. But it's like, it doesn't work like that. You know, when you were talking about what you did and like our apprenticeship, we were set up, pack up church 3 times every Sunday in 3 different locations. Different locations. Set up, pack up, set up, pack up, set up, pack up. And that was our apprenticeship before we actually went into ministry. And it's like, that's crazy. And maybe it is crazy, but what does it mean to give your life to something? As in, you know as well as I do, it's like, as in you play sport, you're going to give your life to that. You're training 4 or 5 nights a week. You're going to be doing this. You're going to be doing that. We talk about the kingdom of God, and it's like, I've got to be on twice a month.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what do you want to do? You want to change the world, or you want to?
We're grateful for the people that can only serve once a month.
I can rant. Sorry?
We're grateful. You know, there's some people that only can serve once a month. Thank you. But I think, again, if you want to have a greater reach, you got to be willing to just get involved a little more. You know, that ownership. And
what does it mean to die to yourself?
Yeah,
Maybe we'll start pulling the threads there.
Yeah.
What does the scripture mean when Jesus said, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains by itself alone, but if it dies, it produces much fruit?
Absolutely. When we die, I mentioned this on Sunday. I said, you know, so many people, we're okay with Jesus dying for us, but we don't want to die to us.
Yeah.
And we want to keep doing what we want to do. We want to do what makes us happy. We got to die to our desires at times, and we got to die to the feeling of, I want to sleep in this morning. I get it. Once in a while, it's okay. But really, what's the purpose? What's the goal in our life? And one of the things I'll tell, I don't take off, receive the offering as much now, but before I would always say this: hey, if a Rise Church is, I get it. Some of you are here with our guests today, but if a Rise Church is your church, right? 3 things we expect of you. We expect you to attend, we expect you to serve, and we expect you to give. And I use the illustration all the time when people come to my house, I don't ask my guests to wash the dishes or clean the bathroom or take out the trash. But you better believe I ask my kids to do it. Why? Because they're family.
Yeah.
And if we don't look at our church as family, you know, and I'm sure you have people, Pastor Shane, your church is so good. And I have people tell me that, oh yeah, your church, they'll tell me your church. And I'm thinking, bro, you've been here for 3 years. It's not your church yet. It's not mine. Like, this is ours. We're family. And we need to all get involved. Like, we need to carry some weight in this thing. I need you to take out the trash. I need you to do this and that. Not because you don't belong, but because you do belong.
Yeah.
And so having that that responsibility is so key. Yeah. And if we're only living for our desires, then we're going to miss it. Yeah. To die for ourselves, I think that takes us back to what we talked about earlier, transformation. Yeah. Being transformed. The transformation's never going to come if we're living for ourselves. Yeah. We've got to die to our desires.
It's true. And the transformation happens in a process.
Absolutely.
And so obviously we've got a lot of enjoyers watching in, particularly young ones. And I got to tell you, I love our young people at Enjoy. And they're all working it out like I'm working it out. And whether you be a young leader or an older, more mature leader, or even not in leadership, you can take on the disposition of a leader. And that it's everything that we're talking about here. I just want to encourage everyone that is leaning in to understand that that as you serve others, as in, for me, the greatest lessons I've learned are not actually in having my needs met. I'm not a consumer. I don't want to be a consumer. I'm here to serve others. And as you serve others, it's amazing what God will do in you and through you. And then the wow factor comes like nothing else. And so if you're not already serving, I want to encourage you, find a place to serve and just begin. I think a lot of people want to find out their gift before they start serving. And I'm like, no, just start serving. Get the wheels rolling, and then you'll be able to steer. God will be able to steer you where He wants you to go, and the rest will be history. And to God be the glory. So, as that iPad is now just turned off, and I don't know what time it is, and I don't know how long we've been going for, we are going to wind it up. But I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for being such a great friend. We love you. We love your family, and we're just thrilled to have you here for the weekend. Obviously, we've got Rich Crane with us as well. We're in for a party time. I've got a feeling that the men are in for a treat tomorrow, and then Sunday's going to be amazing. But your friendship, it goes way beyond this weekend, and I look forward to growing old and beating you on the golf course for a long time to come. So everybody that's watching in, I just want to say thank you for watching in today. Pray that wherever you are, God will bless you. God bless you. God bless your family.
You. Appreciate you. Enjoy church. Love you.
All right. Bless you, everyone. Bye-bye.